In the 1820s, a man just vanished. And his disappearance didn't just become a true crime mystery, it ignited a political firestorm. This is the story of America's first ever third party, a movement born not from some boring policy debate, but from a suspected murder and a deep, deep fear of a powerful secret society. So, how in the world does one guy disappearing create an entire national political party? And even crazier, how does that party, which was basically born from paranoia, go on to invent a core piece of our democracy that we still use to this very day? Well, let's dive in. Okay, so our story kicks off in upstate New York, back in the 1820s. It all centers around a man named William Morgan. He was a simple stonemason who felt he'd been totally wronged by a very powerful, very secretive group, the Freemasons, and he decided he was going to get some revenge. Just look at how fast this all went down. In 1825, Morgan gets rejected by the local Masons. No big deal, right? Wrong. By early 1826, he's furious and threatens to publish a book exposing all their secret handshakes and rituals. Then, in September, things get really ugly. Someone tries to burn down his publisher's office. Morgan gets arrested on some bogus charges, gets bailed out, gets arrested again, and then he's gone, vanished, never seen again. Now, sure, some people at the time suggested Morgan just skip town, but that's not what the public believed. The conclusion on the street was swift and it was chilling. The Masons killed him to shut him up. The most popular theory? That they'd kidnapped him, taken him to the Niagara River, and drowned him. This wasn't just some local rumor, you guys. This became a national outrage. To really get why one man's disappearance caused such a massive political explosion, you have to understand that a lot of Americans were already deeply suspicious of the Freemasons. Morgan's story was basically the lit match on a powder keg of public anxiety that was just waiting to blow. At its core, the fear was all about a secret elitist club. Think about it. The members were the most powerful men in any given town. We're talking judges, bankers, politicians. The public believed their secret oaths meant they'd help each other out no matter what, even if it meant breaking the law. So in people's minds, this wasn't just a social club. It was like a shadow government, a real threat to American democracy. And for many religious folks, it was a direct challenge to their Christian faith. But here's a detail that makes this all so much more interesting. The Masons weren't one big happy family. Nope. They were right in the middle of this bitter internal feud. You had the moderns on one side. They were more into Enlightenment ideas, kind of deist. And on the other side, you had the ancients, much more traditional, Christian-focused, and popular with the working class. This split was a huge fault line in early America. And you can just feel the tension in this quote from 1734. It's from Benjamin Franklin, who was a big-shot modern Mason. He was disgusted with the rival ancients, calling them false and rebel brethren, who were basically cheapening the whole brand. This wasn't some friendly disagreement. This was an ideological war happening inside Masonry itself. And you know, this fear of Masonic conspiracies, it wasn't new. Decades before William Morgan, there was a whole Illuminati scare trying to link Freemasons to shadowy European plots. It got so bad that even George Washington, probably the most famous Mason of all, had to say something. In this letter from 1798, he's basically saying, look, I know there's some radical ideas floating around America, but trust me, the Masonic lodges themselves are not trying to spread them. So you've got this perfect storm, right? A true crime mystery piled on top of years of public fear and suspicion. And all that energy was about to transform from a social panic into a full-blown organized political movement. And there it is, September 1827. Just 1 year after Morgan disappeared, the Anti-Masonic Party is officially founded. Its mission was simple: stop the Masons. But they were smart. They knew they couldn't survive on just one issue. So they quickly expanded their platform to include popular economic ideas like tariffs and building more roads and canals. And get this, they were a hit, like shockingly successful, right out of the gate. In New York, which was the center of the political universe back then, they didn't just compete. They actually booted the established National Republican Party out of the way to become the main opposition to Andrew Jackson's powerful Democrats. This was nothing short of a political earthquake. But the most incredible, the most lasting legacy of this party wasn't a law they passed or a politician they elected. It was something that completely changed how we do democracy in America, something we now take for granted every 4 years. So, before the anti-Masons came along, presidential candidates were basically handpicked by a few powerful guys in a smoke-filled back room. It was the definition of an insider's game. Well, the anti-Masons, with all their anti-elite energy, just blew that whole system up. In 1831, they held the first ever national nominating convention. They had delegates, chosen by the people, come from all over the country to publicly pick their candidate. This was a revolution in transparency, and it's the exact model every party still uses. So how did their first presidential candidate, a guy named William Wirt, actually do? Well, he didn't win, of course. Andrew Jackson was a political juggernaut. But look at these results. Wirt pulled in nearly 8% of the national vote, and he won the entire state of Vermont. This was an amazing debut that proved a third party, even one born from a conspiracy theory, could be a real force in American politics. The Anti-Masonic Party was kind of like a political comet. It burned incredibly bright for a short time, and then it just seemed to fade away. But its impact, its political DNA, is absolutely still with us today. So what happened to them? Well, they didn't so much die as they got absorbed. As the 1830s rolled on, this new, bigger Whig party started to form, and its main goal was just opposing Andrew Jackson. The anti-Masons found a natural home there. And look at the political heavyweights who got their start in this weird little movement. A future president, Millard Fillmore, and massive figures like William H. Seward and Thaddeus Stevens. So when you boil it all down, the party's legacy is just immense. I mean, it literally gave us the nominating convention. It pioneered new, populist ways to get voters excited. But maybe the biggest thing it did was inject this intense distrust of elites and established politicians right into the mainstream. It cemented a tradition of anti-establishment, conspiracy-fueled movements that has echoed through American history ever since. Which kind of brings us to our final thought here. A political movement sparked by a conspiracy theory, fueled by fears of a powerful, unaccountable elite, and driven by raw populist outrage. Does any of that sound familiar? The wild story of the Anti-Masonic Party shows that some of the most powerful and disruptive forces in American politics have very, very deep roots.